Morning! So today I've decided it's time to tackle my door handles and get I've got new, I've got new barrels to go in the doors because these are pretty old, and in the other handle the uppers are pretty knackered, and it's always good to replace them anyway because they get worn out, and before you know it you can open them with pretty much anything. So yeah, I've never done this job before, but I have just taken apart the other side, and I kind of worked out a good way to get it apart. Otherwise it might be a bit tricky, and well, I took a little while working the other side out, so I thought I'd show you guys quickly, just to try and give you a quick insight as to how it came apart. If you haven't done it before, then hopefully this will be helpful. So yeah, let me show you how to do it. Okay, so this is the door handle from my 1982 Mini City. It's a pretty standard sort of design on Mini. And then this is how, I'll give you a quick look at how it actually is once you take it off the door. Basically, you've got a very small screw here. Let's try and show you. It's right there. And then you've got a little retaining clip around here. Now it's this that you've got to try and get off of this post to be able to get this plate needs to come off, and then the push button and the lock barrel come out once this is out of the way. But trying to get this little lever off, there may well be, I'm sure there's probably a special tool to get those off that helps, that makes it a bit easier, but actually in this case I worked out you don't need that. Basically all you've got to do is undo the little screw here. Okay, so that's off. Be careful not to lose it because it is very small. Me being a bit of a shaky, it's easy to misplace. Then, now that's out of the way, of course this plate is free to, sorry I'm not holding it very well, there we go. This plate is now relatively free to move apart from being held down by this retaining clip. So you can use the actual bracket itself to help push on the other side of the clip evenly from all the way around, because that's the problem. You can spend ages trying to pick it off with a screwdriver and pliers. Might have learned from experience, but if you put some pliers behind the bracket here, there's just enough space to get through. You can do that, and then you can work it free from behind. And just try and keep it even, just go back and forth from side to side. Eventually you can work it loose. See, it's working, it is coming closer to the edge of that shaft. You see how it's getting closer to the edge of that shaft piece by piece? And then eventually it'll pop off, and it'll probably fly off somewhere, so just be careful about that. I'm sure it will, but as long as you keep an eye on it, you'll be able to find it. Mine's like right near the edge now. And then just before I do that, just got to point out, so then the pieces behind that as well, there's a spring for the push button, and there's a little washer, and then there's this bracket as well, and they obviously all need to go back in the same order. So you just got to remember that, and then try not to let those fly off when you do that. There we go. Told you it'd all kind of come apart all at once. There we go, I've got my little retaining clip there, and then this piece here, and the push button assembly, and the push button then just slides out. Likewise then this is your little, that's your sort of control piece that dictates whether you can push the push button or not. So just keep that safely to one side, and then you should be able to just tap the barrel out. Right, there we go. Whole barrel comes out. Cool. Thankfully, don't think I damaged anything. Right, so there's this little bracket goes there, then this little bracket here, which dictates this piece. They go like that, and then there's the little washer that goes up against the back of that piece. They go like that. So I'll just lay them all out in order so I can remember how they go. Oh. There we are. Okay. There we are. Now I know everything is here. Right, and now I'm going to give this a quick sand down and a fresh coat of paint because it's all kind of worn and nasty. Having pieced together one side already, I've obviously got a little idea on how I got it to go together. Now I'm doing this side. I'm just going to start off by putting a tiny amount of grease on everything, because I reckon, personally, I mean, I may be wrong, but I reckon that will help it will operate nicely in the future. So I'm just putting a dab of grease into the insides of the handle. Right, then with the key in the new barrel that I want to install, because it just makes it easier to hold on to, I'm just going to be quite generous and put some grease all in that as well, just to help the mechanism work properly in the future. And I've no idea whether it will, but I'm sort of praying that it'll help stop the mechanism from freezing up in the winter as well, because I've had that a lot in the past, and obviously that can get really irritating. So hopefully this will help that not happen. There we go, so a nice generous coating on that, and then I'm just wiping my hands clean every time I do that, because otherwise you end up covered in lots and lots of grease, and it makes it hard to work. Right, so because these are handed, obviously I need to make it a mirror image of the other side, bearing in mind as well which way up the lock is. I also want to keep this side a mirror way up for the other side. Cool, so that's the barrel is now in place. Then I'm going to put, what did I do next? Right, then I also put this piece on. Now this has to go, right, let's try and show you properly. Now this has to go on this way round. Again, actually I'm just going to put a little bit of grease on the underside, because these are all moving parts, of course, so it's going to help it in the long run. So a bunch of grease on the bottom of that will just help it move. All around here, all these mating faces, of course, are only going to wear out if they've not got some sort of lubricant to them. So that's that in place. Now, let's put that down for a a second. Right, then you've got the plunger for the button, for the release button. So I just dabbed that in. I'm literally coating everything, to be honest. It may be that you don't need to, but that's just the way I'm going to do it. It's not going to do it any harm, is it? Let's face it. Right, there we go. And that just gives it a good smear all over. Nice and generous. And then this also has a flat edge to it, you might want to notice, and it has that inside the handle just to stop the button from moving around too much. So you just place that in like that. Nice and simple. That's that all in place. Now, piecing together the rest of this is quite tricky, I found, but actually if you just sort of prepare yourself for doing it all in kind of one go, then it wasn't too bad actually. Again, just greasing, I'm going to say this a million times apparently, just greasing everything up as we go. I found then, of course, the grease helps stick this little washer, which actually has a lip to it as well, so you want to make sure you get it the right way around. So that's facing out. And then again, I mean, you can see wear marks on this where the very small amount of grease it had on it originally hasn't really worked anymore, and it's all been wearing against itself. Nice bit of grease in there, and then a little bit of grease, not too much, but just a bit on the underface of that. Okay. Alright, now because this is a mirror image of the other side, I'm just going to hold it in the opposite direction to the other, because then it'll make it easier for me to look at and realise which way around, of course, it needs to go. Right, now that little moving piece here has to go in between this little gap here, so it's just again something to be aware of as you're putting it together. Right, so then this piece went on top of there, and then you just have to push it all the way down over the plunger until it engages with that little peg through that gap I just showed you. As I say, this gets a little awkward, but it's actually not too bad. Once you've got it down and everything's sort of in its place, it's actually okay. Then this little bracket goes over the top there. Right, so now this is all in this place. It's actually relatively easy to hold it all together, even for someone who shakes it about all over the place like me. And then you just basically want to get this little tiny screw in from where that came, and then that will hold it all together enough for you to do the finishing piece. So just screw that in place. There we go. Righto, so now that's all held together. Of course, it's everything, as I said, everything now gets covered in grease if you're not careful. So just quickly mop that off, or get the worst of it off. Right, and then at this point you actually want to take the key out of the barrel. Okay, so that's out and all in place as it should be. And then basically you need to put the handle down on a flat surface. So now you want to get this little circlip over the top of this shaft here, which can be pretty tricky. And again, I'm sure there's a special tool for doing this. But basically you just need to hold it in place And then I found an easy way to do it is just to get a little small old socket that just about fits over that shaft, and then just tap it in place with a hammer. Just being careful not to damage anything, make sure it's all kind of lined up as you think it needs to be. Be careful not to go too nuts, obviously, because you don't want to damage anything. That looks fine to me. Just give it another little tap. There we go. So that seems like it's in place now. Everything is still able to move or not gone too crazy. Righto, and then you just need to double check it with a key. Make sure, obviously, it's actually moving freely. Key in. And that is now moving as it should do. And there we go. We've got two handles completely refurbished and ready to go back on the car with new barrels. Okay guys, so that's it for today. It was just a quick one, as I said, not really a tutorial or anything. It was just how I did this, and hopefully that'll be helpful to some of you guys. And yeah, I'm pretty pleased with how that's gone. I'm quite looking forward to having door handles on the car again, to be honest. So yeah, thanks for watching. Press the like and subscribe if you want. I'll catch you later. Cheers.